Hello, everyone. Welcome to Otaku Talk. It's me, your boy, your host, OD. And today we'll be reviewing and analyzing chapter 1033 of One Piece. Was a dope chapter. A lot happened, so can't wait to get into it. This isn't my normal setup, as some of you might know. I stopped by my friends for Thanksgiving, and I ended up staying here. So I brought all my stuff to make sure I was able to do this review. If this is your first time on my channel or you've been here before but haven't done so already, would greatly appreciate if you could like and subscribe. It helps me with the algorithm, and just, it would mean the world to me if you join my league of otaku, and I could start doing this on a much more professional daily basis. It would mean the world to me. So please go ahead and do that. Anyway, without much further ado, let's get into this review. All right, so chapter 1033 of One Piece, chapter titled Shimotsuki Kuzabura. From the moment I read that chapter title, I was hyped and I knew exactly kind of where we would be going with this chapter. Uh, the cover art was cool. It's Tashigi playing with some penguins. It's cute. You have Smoker in the back, but if you're no stranger to this channel, I'm not really interested in the cover requests. I love the cover stories, and we haven't gotten a cover story in like forever, so I'm like dying for that. Anyway, we start off this chapter with Zoro versus King, and it just is not looking too well for Zoro. He's really, really struggling. We even see him use his one of his signature moves, you often used as a classic finisher, and that's his one sword style lion song, right? The one where he usually slashes, ends up on the other side of his opponent with his sword resheath, and we usually have like the opponent being cut and falling. That jaunt does not work on King at all. King says something to the effect of he activated armament hockey at the last second, but that honestly seems to be some bull, because we see that there's some sort of explosion when Zoro makes contact, which I've watched and read enough anime and manga to know that he's using his explosions, the force from the explosion, to negate the impact of the attack. So I'm very curious to learn more about that, because it doesn't just seem like it's fire manipulation that the Lunarian race has, but it also seems like he may be able to use explosions as well, which might, foreshadow some things with Sanji, possibly, if Sanji can do that as well. Speaking of being a Lunarian, we finally have that confirmed with Queen and Sanji in the following panels, where Queen basically says that King is the last of the Lunarians. He's their Superman, the last Kryptonian. And we find out that, they were once worshipped as gods, that they're able to survive in any environment, any situation. They're able to adapt. So that just leaves us with a bunch of some answers, but a lot more questions. Primarily, what we find out that Queen tells us to find out for ourselves is how exactly was a race this powerful wiped out. So then we go back to the Zoro fight. And something I want to mention real quick, he does the Tempora Attack again, which once again, I have no freaking clue how it works, like in the slightest. A lot of YouTubers have been talking about how it's similar to Luffy's Gum Gum ability. And I want to make this very clear. I'm positive this isn't like a Lunarian thing. This isn't a King's Race thing. He made it very clear how it was a ability of the Pteranodon, and this is how Pteranodons hunted back in the past. It's similar to how initially with Queen we thought that that snake thing he did was because he's a cyborg, but no, that's just something that Brachiosaurus in the One Piece world apparently were able to do. And I don't even know what he's firing at Zoro, because Zoro before said it was like a laser. Is it air pressure? It's definitely not like his head moving that quickly. So that's something that like I'm very curious about. So anyway, Zoro lands another attack, I believe. Once again, it's blocked by the explosion, and just things are not going Zoro's way. And to make matters worse, the entire time this is happening, Enma is just draining Zoro of his haki without his permission. Zoro tells him to stop, and it just is not happening. And that's where we get a flashback. And if anyone, as you know, at this point in the series, when we get flashback time, it's usually time for power up. So it was dope. Now we get a few flashbacks scattered here and there, but the predominant flashback that we're gonna focus on is meeting the old geezer of Shimotsuki Village, Shimotsuki Kuzabura. So Kuzabura would watch Zoro train and whatnot, and they would get to talking. This is by the way, this is the old geezer that told him about Tsunachi and whatnot. And so Zoro's asking him stuff like, "Hey, is it true that you were a famous samurai?" To which Kuzabura was like, "Yo, shut that shit up. Like, I don't want the Marines after me." And Zoro's a kid at this moment, so he doesn't understand like, how the seriousness of things, and he's just like, "Why would they be after you?" But clearly, knowing what we know, it's because he's Shimotsuki Kuzabura. Which, by the way, I just want to say how laughable it is that you're getting mad at Zoro for being like, "Oh, I heard you were a famous samurai, this, that, and other, and I don't want the Marines to find me." But bruh, you live on a whole island named Shimotsuki Village. Maybe the Marines are just super inept at their job, which we have seen them be. But I feel like if they were seriously looking for you, the first place they should have checked was Shimotsuki Village. Like, that's like what? This kind of reminds me of Shang-Chi, where the friend finds out his real name is Shang-Chi, and she's like, "So your name was Shang-Chi and you changed it to Sean, and you're wondering how they were able to find you?" And that's kind of like the feeling I get here. But of course, the Marines never found them for whatever reason. So I guess it worked out. But anyway, we find out that the two beginner swords that Zoro gets to start his journey with Luffy, he actually was gifted by Shimotsuki Kuzabura. And obviously, at this time in his life, he's no longer the great blacksmith he used to be. He just kind of gives him the sword, and he's like, "Here, use these." Talks about his magnum opus, that was named after the Lord of the Underground. And I honestly kind of am a little bit annoyed how it just took now for Zoro to like put one and one together. So that's a little annoying. Like, yeah, we can joke that like Zoro isn't the brightest, but he's no idiot either. So I don't know, that was a little bit weird. But the main point of this background that we get is the fact that we find out swords in One Piece, especially like the better the sword, have unique, distinct personalities, right? And so we also find out great exposition into the cursed swords, which, by the way, before I continue, I just want to mention that I'm loving the fact that we're getting exposition on this, because about a month ago, a YouTuber named Drizzy released about a 3-hour rant session. I feel like it might have been more than 3 hours, honestly. A 3-hour rant session basically bashing One Piece and naming all the flaws of it. But a good amount, and I'm not going to lie, there were some good criticisms, but a good amount of his criticisms were just things that we don't know yet, or aren't meant to know yet. And it really isn't fair. And as someone who's been following One Piece since I was in middle school, I have so many questions that have yet to be answered. But as I've watched this series and seen, Oda will get there. We'll get there when we get there, and you need to be patient. And like one of the complaints he had was about cursed swords. Like, cursed swords haven't really done anything, blah, blah, blah. And now we're learning that cursed swords are only called cursed swords because people are ignorant and don't truly know what they're talking about. And basically weaker willed people have tried to use these swords, and it's ended up in their death or misfortune. And so now we're learning that cursed swords aren't cursed swords, and they have like quote unquote mysterious powers or whatnot. They just have a unique, distinct personality that they want certain users to be able to utilize them in a manner befitting of them, something like that. Also, fun fact, I mentioned this before, Law has a cursed sword. So I'm wondering if this might be a power up for him down the road or if it will be nothing at all. So very, very curious about that. There's a lot going on with the whole personality and yeah, just the whole unique and distinct personalities of inanimate objects thing. I have been prepared for this moment ever since we saw the Going Merry and how it had like spirits repaired and whatnot. I knew that this would be a trope that reared its head again. I don't think it's a bad one, and I think if this is the case that inanimate objects in the One Piece world have souls and whatnot, I think that would be really cool. And I also think it fits really well into Japanese culture. If you have been following Japanese culture or anime and manga for a long time, you know, one of their beliefs is that the longer you have an item, the longer that you care and love and cherish the item, it develops its own distinct personality. And so that just fits in line with, you know, Japanese culture. Also, something else I wanted to mention was I saw this in one of the comments while I was reading. Oda once did a personification picture of the swords, and I believe Wado, it's either Wado Ichimonji or was it Enma? I think it was Wado Ichimonji, looks very similar to its creator, Shimotsuki Kuzabura. So I think that's really cool. And the fact that we're going to get to see the blacksmith that has the Kitetsu now, I'm wondering if, you know, he's going to look like, you know, the portrayal in the picture. I have it up here so you guys can see. So that's going to be very interesting. So we've just been learning that things have wills of their own. And, you know, I've been hearing a lot of YouTubers recently talk about the fact that devil fruits themselves might have a will of their own. And we're learning that from the fact that when they're put into actually, correction. I was going to say that when they're put into inanimate objects, you know, the fact that they're able to act and do things means that, you know, they have a will. But the fact that inanimate objects have their own will, maybe it's the will of the actual inanimate object itself. This just opens up so many doors and possibilities that I'm very excited to delve into. But yeah, very good chapter. We're learning a lot. I'm wondering if, you know, Sanji himself, because of the whole Lunarian thing, is going to be able to use explosions similar to King to help increase his fighting power, his attack ability. Also, you know, it's making me wonder if there's a connection with the Lunarians with Luffy. It would explain so much of Red Hawk and stuff like that. Right now, we just kind of accepted the fact that, you know, Red Hawk is some sort of combination of, you know, Gear 2 and hockey and friction creating fire. But that's what Oda wants us to think. Oda thinks like does stuff like that all the time where he lets us run with our imagination, make our own headcanon, and somewhere along the line we just kind of accept it as true. And that's typically where he comes and he's like, nah, this is it. And I don't think Luffy is Lunarian. I think it's more, it has something to do with if his fire powers are based on something, it may be from the whole Sun God Nika side, the whole Joy Boy side. We still don't know Luffy's mom for one, but we've talked about in the series and just overall in general how, and the characters have talked about this, how Luffy has this inherent innate ability to gravitate people around himself. And you know, what does that have to do with One Piece? We see all in the world with planets and the flags and whatnot. You know, we're in a solar system, and what does everything in the solar system revolve around? That's right, the sun. And so I think this is a huge analogy just for how the universe works, how you know, we have all the spirals with, you know, like the devil fruits, and how, you know, the spiral might mean reincarnation. We have Sanji's spiral eyebrows. We know that he was experimented on. He might have Lunarian DNA. He might have, you know, devil fruit DNA, something that, you know, when he was experimented on, they put in him. A lot of people are comparing the spirals on the devil fruits, the spirals on his eyes. In the last chapter, we had the spirals change direction, thus, you know, marking his completion. So there's just so much going on in the world. And I think, like, you know, how Blackbeard is the foil to Luffy, but, you know, Luffy as the sun naturally has things gravitate to him. No, like he passively is doing it, while Blackbeard is more like a black hole where he's forcing things to gravitate to him. he's forcing it, and that's gonna have some kind of lesson. And you can't force things; you have to just go with the flow. Who knows, right? So there's just a lot going on. We have, sorry, my alarm went off. There's just a lot going on. So yeah, like I said, we have the Pirate King, who I would assume is the sun, and that's we have clues like with that, with Inu, Inuarashi, and Nekomushi. The day leader, the night leader, and we're seeing so much metaphors and analogies with the sun and the moon. And then we have Sanji, who might have Lunarian blood. We have Zoro, who is clearly Shimotsuki, and Shimotsuki means moon. So I just can't wait for all this to come together. I'm really excited for that. And then to finish off the chapter, we have Zoro just deciding, all right, I'm just gonna go all out, which I think is what Emma wants. I was reading the comments, and it just seems like kind of the consensus is that Emma doesn't like bitches wielding him. I think the reason he is forcibly absorbing Zoro's chakras to tell him, I said chakra, haki, is to be like, hey, yo, you're wounded right now, you're hurt. Fighting conservatively like this, you're not going to win. King isn't someone that you can win a battle of attrition with. You need to go all out right now. You have the latent haki, you have the abilities to fight him, but you need to go all the fuck out right now, right in this moment. And if you're not going to do it yourself, I'm going to force it out of you, because we have this whole medicine that, from my understanding, does not last long at all. And he's been fighting King for quite some time now. So I'm very nervous about that. And so I think Emma is just trying to be like, hey, if you're going to wield me, you have to go all out, or that's it. And so now that he's forced the haki out of him, not only is he using armament haki, but he's also now using Conqueror's haki that is self-evident by King saying, oh, you have the King's disposition, as well as the fact that we're seeing little lightning bolts or whatever coming off his sword. So I'm super excited for that. The end of the chapter says something along the lines of he's about to surpass his limits, something like that. So I can't wait for the next chapter, but I have a feeling this is where Oda is going to segue. We might return back to the Sanji fight, or we might go to a completely different fight in general. And then, because of all these things happen, we kind of forgot about Luffy and Kaido on the rooftop. So Oda can go any direction with this. I am super excited. So what do you guys think about this chapter? Do you still like Enma? Personally, I still am not a fan of Enma. Mr. Morge has likened it to a magic sword. Not that it's actually magical, just that the power seems to be coming from the sword and not Zoro himself. And as a huge Zoro fan, that perturbs and bothers me quite a lot. It really seems like the feats have been coming from Enma and not Zoro. Like the last straw for me, or the first time where like I kind of accepted it, was on the rooftop when Kaido said something to the effect of like he can feel Odin, and I just really would not like that. So if Zoro like takes over the sword, the personality, and tames it, and then it becomes his power from then on, that would be cool. But if just Emma has this inherent power that it can utilize and that Zoro can bother, it would slightly rub me the wrong way. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know what you thought about this review. Let me know what you think about the Lunarians, hockey, cursed swords, and just everything there's just so much to kind of comprehend and analyze in this. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, got to spend it with family, and I hope you guys have a phenomenal weekend. Take care. Peace. This has been Otaku Talk. I'm your host, OD. Have a great night.